The warning doesn't come as a voice. It comes as a sound, sharp, repeating, unmistakable inside the cockpit. Everything changes in less than a second. The aircraft is stable, cutting through the sky with precision, until suddenly, it isn't a lock. Then another. The system screams, "Missile threat." There's no time to confirm, no time to question, only instinct. The jet jolts violently as impact hits. Systems collapse, lights flicker. Control disappears. The sky once controlled turns hostile inside. The cockpit. The pilot doesn't think he reacts. His hand finds the ejection handle and pulls. The canopy explodes away. The seat fires in an instant. His body is launched upward with brutal force, faster than the mind can process, harder than the body can handle. Below him, mountains, unknown terrain, hostile territory. And as the burning aircraft disappears beneath him, one reality becomes clear. He is alone and survival has already begun. There is no gradual transition from safety to danger. Only a break, sudden, violent, one moment. The aircraft responds perfectly. Every input, precise, every movement controlled the next. It resists. Alarms begin to layer over each other. Sharp tones, urgent warnings, systems competing for attention. The radar. Warning receiver spikes, locked. The pilot doesn't need confirmation. He knows what it means. Somewhere beyond visual range, something is already moving toward him fast. The cockpit fills with sound, but inside his mind, everything narrows. Training takes control. There is no hesitation. The aircraft shudders as impact arrives. Not a single explosion, but a chain reaction of failure. Hydraulics degrade, stability vanishes. The jet begins to fall out of controlled flight. Altitude drops. Time compresses. Every second now matters more than the last. He tries to correct, but the aircraft no longer responds as it should. Control surfaces. Lag, instruments fluctuate. This is no longer recovery, this is survival. His hand moves, automatic, precise, reaching down toward the ejection handle between his legs. There is no dramatic pause, no final thought, just action. He pulls. The response is immediate. Explosive charges detonate above him, shattering the canopy into fragments that disappear into the rushing air. Then the seat fires. The force is violent, far beyond anything experienced in normal flight. His body is driven upward with extreme acceleration, muscles tense instantly. Vision tightens under pressure. The aircraft disappears beneath him in a blur of speed and noise for a fraction of a second. There is only chaos. Wind tears across his body. Air resistance slams into him with brutal force, then separation. The seat detaches, the parachute deploys, and suddenly there is silence. Not complete silence, but something close to it. The violence of the moment gives way to stillness. He is suspended in the air, alive but not safe below him. The terrain becomes visible. Jagged, uneven, unfamiliar mountains stretch in every direction. Valleys cut deep into the land. No clear landing zone, no friendly territory, no immediate rescue, only distance, only exposure. And somewhere far below, a trail of smoke marks the place where the aircraft has fallen. That crash site is more than wreckage. It is a signal to anyone watching, to anyone listening, to anyone already moving. Because in hostile territory, a falling aircraft does not go unnoticed. And as he drifts downward through cold, thinning air, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. He has escaped the sky. But he has entered something far more dangerous. The parachute opens above him, stabilizing the descent for a moment. It feels controlled, but his body tells a different story. The force of ejection has already left its mark. The acceleration didn't spread evenly. It traveled straight through him from the base of the seat into his spine, compressing bone against bone as he hangs beneath the canopy. Something feels wrong, not broken, but altered. Shorter, weaker, compressed. He shifts slightly, and the response is immediate pain. Deep, heavy, unrelenting. Not sharp like a cut. Not sudden like an impact, but constant. It settles into his back, spreading through muscle and bone. The kind of pain that doesn't fade quickly. The kind that follows. Every movement below him, the ground rises faster than expected. There is no time to prepare properly. No time to find the perfect landing. Only time to brace impact. His boots hit uneven rock. The shock travels instantly upward through his legs into His spine, the pain intensifies for a moment. His body resists movement entirely. It wants to stay down, to recover, to stop. But that instinct is dangerous, because survival doesn't begin after landing. It begins the moment he touches the ground. He forces himself to move slowly, at first testing balance, testing strength. Everything feels heavier, less responsive, but functional. That's enough. He looks around. The terrain is harsh. Rocky slopes, scattered ridges, limited cover, and somewhere in the distance sound, faint but real. The crash has been heard, and in a place like this, that means attention. Attention leads to movement. Movement leads to search, and search leads to capture. He is no longer falling, but he is far from safe, because now he is exactly what others are looking for. The instinct to stay still is overwhelming. His body demands it, pain encourages it, but training rejects it completely. Staying here is not survival, it is exposure. The crash site behind him is already a marker, a fixed point that others can move toward. Every second he remains close to it increases the risk. He forces himself upright. The movement is slow, deliberate. Each shift of weight sends a wave of discomfort through his back. But standing is necessary because movement is survival. He scans the terrain. Valleys stretch below. Open, accessible, easier to navigate, but also predictable. Search teams will move through them. First roads, riverbeds, open paths. These are the fastest ways to cover. Ground, and the most dangerous, higher ground, offers something different. It is harder, slower, more painful, but less predictable, less accessible, and more controllable. The decision forms quickly. He turns toward the mountain. The first steps are the hardest. His body resists. Every movement. Muscles tighten instinctively, trying to protect what has already been damaged, but stopping is not an option. He moves one step, then another, slowly building momentum behind him. The wreckage burns, smoke rises. Into the sky, a visible signal that can be seen for miles. That smoke is a countdown. It tells others where to begin, and they will begin soon. The terrain shifts as he climbs loose rocks, uneven footing, steep angles. Each step requires focus. Each movement demands balance. Pain becomes constant but manageable. He adapts to it, works around it, because ignoring it is impossible. Below, the landscape opens wider. He gains visibility, and with it awareness. Movement becomes easier to detect. Any approach can be seen earlier. That advantage matters because time matters. He pauses briefly, just long enough to listen. Nothing clear, but the silence isn't reassuring. It's temporary. He continues, step by step. Distance builds between him and the crash site. Between him and the search that is coming, but distance alone isn't enough. He needs position, a place where he can stop, where he can disappear, because movement cannot continue forever. His body won't allow it, and eventually he will need to stay. Still, but not yet. Not here, not exposed. He keeps climbing because somewhere above there is a place where survival becomes possible, and until he finds it, he keeps moving. Before terrain, before strategy, before escape, there is something more immediate. Bleeding. It doesn't demand attention loudly. It doesn't force action through pain alone. It drains quietly, steadily, and if ignored, it ends everything quickly. He stops, not because he wants to, but because he has to. His hands move instinctively. To his gear, not for a weapon, not for communication. For medical supplies, he locates the wound. The source isn't immediately dramatic, but it's enough to matter enough to become dangerous. He pulls out a compact package, combat gauze designed for exactly this moment. No hesitation. He applies it directly, firm pressure, no adjustment, no checking, just force. Seconds stretch longer under stress. His breathing slows, focus narrows, everything else fades, only pressure matters, now only stopping. The flow time becomes measurable, not in minutes, but in seconds. He counts silently, waiting for change, waiting for resistance. Slowly. The bleeding begins to slow, not completely, but enough to continue, enough to survive longer. He maintains pressure a moment longer, ensuring stability, because partial control is not enough. Failure here means everything else fails. He secures the dressing tests. Movement pain remains, but controlled bleeding contained. That's the objective, not comfort. Not recovery, just control. He looks up again. The world hasn't stopped. The threat hasn't paused. Search teams are still coming. Time has not slowed, if anything. It has accelerated because now every minute he spends here is another minute. Someone else gets closer. He stands again, carefully adjusting to the added pressure on his body. The wound is no longer the immediate threat, but it hasn't disappeared. It will remain a constant factor, a limitation, something to manage, not ignore. He begins, moving again slower but controlled, because survival isn't about speed alone, it's about maintaining function, and right now he still has it, but not for long unless he uses it wisely. Movement buys time, but it doesn't solve isolation, and isolation is dangerous because alone, survival becomes guesswork direction, disappears, options narrow. That's when he reaches for the next piece of gear, a small device attached to his vest, compact, unremarkable in appearance but critical. He activates it. Carefully, not continuously, just enough as short. Transmission sent upward beyond the mountains, beyond the terrain into something larger. Somewhere far above, systems are already listening, monitoring, waiting. The signal reaches them, and with it, confirmation, he is alive. His position known for the first time since impact. He is no longer invisible. But connection changes the equation, because signals can be detected, not always understood, but noticed patterns form, locations, narrow, that risk is real and immediate. So he limits it short, bursts, then silence. No repetition, no unnecessary transmission. Every signal must serve a purpose. Update position, confirm status, then stop. He moves again, then transmits again. A pattern, forms movement signal. Silence, each action calculated, each decision. Measured, because communication is no longer just support. It is exposure used correctly. It saves him. Used incorrectly, it reveals him. He balances both, because now survival is no longer just physical. It is strategic, and somewhere far above a response has already begun. The crash did not go unnoticed. Movement begins quickly. Roads fill, vehicles, spread out patterns emerge across the terrain. Search teams deploy systematically. Valleys first routes, next high probability zones. They move with purpose, because they know what they're looking for. A pilot alive somewhere within range. At the same time, the sky changes. It is no longer empty. Surveillance systems move overhead unseen, but active, scanning terrain, tracking movement, building a picture. Some of those systems are searching for him. Others are watching for threats. A silent conflict unfolds. Detection versus concealment, tracking versus evasion. He is in the center of it. Every step matters, too slow, and he is found too fast, and he exposes himself too visible, and he becomes a target. He adapts, uses terrain, stays irregular, avoids predictable movement. He stops when necessary, moves when required, because survival now depends on timing. He listens, watches, waits below him. Patterns become clearer. Search teams move through valleys. Vehicles stop, start again, expand outward. They are getting closer, not directly but steadily above unseen systems. Track those movements, adjust focus, provide awareness, but they cannot protect what they cannot locate precisely. That's where his signals matter. Each transmission refines the picture, each update improves coordination, but each signal also risks detection. The balance tightens because now the search is active and time is narrowing. The only advantage left is elevation. Everything else carries risk. He begins the climb slow. Deliberate pain increases instantly. His body resists. But stopping is not an option. Each step becomes effort. Each movement controlled. The terrain is unforgiving. Loose rock, steep angles, unstable footing, but it offers something valuable: distance, visibility control. He continues step by step. Breathing becomes heavier, movement becomes slower, but progress continues. Below, the search expands above concealment. Waits. He pushes forward because reaching higher ground changes everything, and when he finally finds it, a narrow crevice hidden, shielded, invisible from distance, he enters and stops. For the first time he disappears. Now comes the hardest part: waiting. Time slows. Pain settles deeper. Movement stops below. Search teams continue above systems monitor. He remains still, hidden, silent. His radio becomes his only connection, used carefully, briefly. Then off each transmission matters too many. And he is. Exposed too few, and he is lost. The balance holds, hours pass, then more day turns to night, then back again. Hunger builds, fatigue grows, but he remains because now movement is risk, and patience is survival. After 36 hours, the operation begins. Coordinates. Confirmed timing. Critical aircraft move in fast, precise, exposed. He prepares to move, pain returns instantly. But now there is direction. Sound builds. Rotors closer, faster. The rescue has arrived, but risk remains, because extraction is never safe only. Controlled, the aircraft approaches, fast insertion, minimal exposure. He moves toward it carefully, quickly, because time is limited. Every second counts, and then contact. He is pulled in, lifted, removed from the ground. The terrain drops away, distance. Builds. And for the first time, safety becomes real from the outside. It looks impossible. One man alone in hostile territory, surviving 36 hours. But it wasn't luck, it was preparation. Every piece of gear mattered. Every decision counted. The ejection. Seat, the medical kit, the radio, the training, all working together, not perfectly but effectively. Survival wasn't accidental. It was designed, built over time, refined through experience. Because in war, you don't rely on chance. You rely on systems. And this time the system worked. He made it out.